Welcome back, Lancers. Today we are here to study theory part of while loop. We have already covered the basic of loops. We have also covered the for loop. The theory part is covered, and then we have at least 5 videos on the programming sessions in which we have covered most important questions that are asked in interviews, in questions, in semester exams and everywhere. And for now we will start the next topic, while loop. The content of this video is something like this. First of all, we will revise our looping theory, and after that we will relate that looping theory to with while loop. We will understand how while loop works. We will also give some tips and tricks that are important in while loop. Also, after that we will program few examples, very basic example for now, to understand the while loop in practical way. Let's get right into the video. So first of all, we will discuss about what are the types of loop. We have already covered this part in our previous video, so here we will just revise the topic in a very brief way. So a loop is of 3 types. Basically a loop is of 3 types. They are for loop, while loop and do while. Understand this? A loop is of 3 types: for loop, while loop and do while. What are the basic difference here? The syntax of each loop is different in each case. We have already covered the for loop part. Now we are starting the while loop, and after that we will be covering do while part. Also understand here one thing, that these two, for and while, are here it is the statement executes later. The condition is checked first and then the statement is executed. But in do while it's not the same case. Here the statement is executed first and then the condition is checked. This is a difference between do while and for and while loop. Again, in for and while loop the condition executes first, after that the statement executes. But in do while the statement executes first and then the conditional part executes. This is the basic difference between for and while and do while. Okay, for now let's just move forward. Let us understand the loop in a very quick look format. First of all, in loop there are 4 important topics, one of them being initialization. Here, after that it is condition, again it is statements, after that it is iteration. So now what are these? We have already discussed. Let us just have a quick look in these. Initialization means initializing the value or a variable in which we initialize a value to a variable. For example, in our for loop we do something like this: I is equals to 1. This is an example of initialization. After that the conditional part occurs. What is conditional part? Conditional part is the basic condition in which the for loop executes. Here the condition part is execute multiple times, and the for loop will run or execute until the conditional part become false. That in the thing that I want to convey is, until the condition part is true, the for loop or any of the loop will execute, but when it becomes false, the loop terminates. After the condition part, we have the statement in which we execute different parts: printf, scanf, the long programs, this pattern printing algorithms, different logics are written here. And after that the iteration part is the important one here. Why? Because basically iteration part changes the value of initialized variable, and then that initialized variable is checked again in this condition, and if the condition is true, the statement executes, and if the statement executes, after that iteration occurs, and in this iteration again the value of that I or the initialized variable changes, and that is checked again in the condition. And if this time it becomes false, the statement doesn't execute much further. For now, this was the quick look on loop, how the loop works. If you didn't get it quite now also, just watch this video again in this part, the quick look part, and you will understand it very well. Also, if I am talking very fast, please slow down the video in the YouTube settings. You will understand the concepts much more clearly. Now let's move to our next topic, that is how how our loop works. I have already discussed this. First of all, initialization occur. After that, the condition is checked. If the condition is true, the statement is executed. If it is false, there the programs end here. This is the program execution ends. If the condition is true, the statement execute. After that, iteration occurs. Iteration check after iteration, the value which, or the variable which was initialized is checked again in this condition. And if that variable is true again, if is coming true in this condition again, then statement will execute again, and after that again iteration will occur, and this loop, or you can say this continuous process, will occur until the condition becomes false and the program terminates. Now let's move to the flow chart of our while loop. Basically, this is the flow chart of a while loop. What we want to say here: first of all, a condition is checked here. See here, first of all, in the while loop we have a condition which is checked. Initialization part is before this only. After that, condition check. If the condition becomes true, the statement executes, but if it is false, the program terminates. Okay, and if the statement executes, then it goes to condition part. How? Here no iteration part is there. So what is the basic difference in for loop and while loop is that in for loop there is a specific column for the iteration part. You see, we have something like this: for, and here iteration part, here initialization part, here condition part, and then the iteration part. But in while loop, the iteration part is inside this statement only. The program inside the curly braces. The iteration here only iteration is inside that curly braces. This is what difference between for loop and while loop. Now let us see the basic syntax of while loop. So basically, this is the basic syntax of a while loop. The while loop, first of all, the while loop check the condition here. Before checking this condition, we have to first initialize the value beforehand. This is important, please remember. After checking the condition, if it gives two value, it can give two value, first one being 0 or second one being 1. If it is 0, then it will execute these statements, and if it is 1 or any other number, then it will not execute these all. Now what I mean to say, that if this while loop gives want to execute, it should be true, not false. If it is true, sorry, not 0, this should be true and this should be false. Okay, if the condition is true, these statements will execute. If it is false, this statement will not execute. So now let's move to the programming part, and we will understand for while loop in a very practical session, or you can say hands-on session, and that will be very much friendly to a programmer. Now let's move to the VS Code. So here we are back again to VS Code, and now we will program few examples and view few basic while loop examples to understand while loop in much more practical way. Now first of all, before programming anything, we have to first include standard.io.h. After that, we have to write int main. These two are much more important. Okay, now let's just initialize take a value int I here, and also first, okay, while loop here. You see, this is the basic syntax of a while loop. While inside the braces it will be condition, and inside the curly braces it will be the code, or you can say the statement, and also the iteration part. But first of all, we have to initialize. So here we will initialize the I with 1, and let's give the condition something like this here. Let's say I have to print from 1 to 10. So I am starting from 1, and I will give the condition that while I is smaller than or equals to 10, what we have to do? We have to print I. Now to print I, we have to use these format specifiers and printf function. So here this one is fine. Okay, now you see what is happening here. First of all, we initialize the value of I, that is 1. After that, we are saying to the compiler that while, that is do something while I is smaller than or equals to 10, that is do while I is smaller than equals to 10, print I. Okay, but what is happening here? We are not giving the iteration part. For that, I will use I++. That will iterate, and it will change the value of I after each execution by 1. You already know that this mean I is equals to I plus 1. We have already discussed these things. Now let's run this program and see what is happening. It's compiled successfully, and you see 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. You will see that this is a mess because we have not provided here \n. Okay, now if we will run it, you see we have printed 1 to 10. Our destination was this, our goal was this, and we have achieved that. Now let's print a number, table of some number. Let's say I want to print a table of n is equals to I want to print a table of 40. Let's say, for example, then what we will do, we will just say while I is smaller than or equals to 10, print I multiplied with n. And you see I will just give a bracket here. Okay, now let's run this program and see what is happening. You see here it is printing the table of 40. You can change values. Let's say I gave 42, and then if I run it again, you see it is printing the table of 42 now. You see, while loop is a very powerful kit in basically in looping sections. If you want, sometimes we want infinite loops in our program. For example, we have programmed few menu driven programs, and you see menu driven program doesn't work quite well if it asks the user that if let's say we are making a calculator, and if it asks you want to add, yes, I say I want to add, and I add, and it completed, and the execution terminates. This is what not our program should do. It should ask again if the user want to add, multiply, or do some task more, or the user want to exit that program. For that we use the infinite loop, and we use infinite loop something like this: while 1, and to understand the infinite loop we will just print here something. Let's say hello StudyLance. StudyLancers. Now we will just give a \n. Okay, now let's run this program. Okay, this will give error because I have not given a semicolon here. And now let's just hit the run button, and you see it is printing hello StudyLance infinite times. You cannot imagine how many in parts it is the StudyLance is printing. To terminate this one, we will just hit Control C, which will terminate this program. You see how much the StudyLance has been printed. Hello StudyLances. So this is what we do to execute. Sometimes we need the infinite loops for that also. Let's say if we give a value 0 in place of 1, what it will do. Now let's run this. You see it doesn't do anything because 0 means false. That is, if the condition is false, the execution terminates. If the condition is true, the execution occurs. Okay, does 0 means false? That we have understand, but does only 1 means true? No, not it's not the case in here. because if you give any number here and let's just run, you will see that it will run perfectly fine, because this is the property of C, that it takes 0 as false and it takes any other number apart from 0 as true. This is the basic property of C language. Now what if we doesn't give any condition to our program? Now let's run this one. You see it will give some error expected, this and more. So you can say that conditions are very much important in while loop. Without condition we cannot run a while loop. Now let us see one more example, and this one is a quite tricky one. What if we give two conditions to our program? Let's say we take a variable int I, and also we will initialize it one, and here I will give a condition that int I %2 is equals to 0, and also I will give I must be greater than, not greater than, less than 20. Let's say and now I will just print I. We have not given any iteration statement here. For that we will just give a iteration statement here. Now we will run it. You see it is printed few numbers. Now let us check what it's doing. First of all, it is printing 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 till 20. Now what if we switch these conditions? Let's check this one. Here, comma here, sorry, okay. Now and now if we will hit the run button, it compiled successfully and it is not doing anything. Basically with this program I want to say that you can give few more than one condition, but only one condition will execute. Not and which one will be? It will be this, the last condition which we want to execute. You see, if I say here I less than equals to 10, and if now I will run this program, it will only print till 10, not 20. Why? Because this condition is is checked, not this one. This is a very basic logic behind this while loop. Now let's wrap this video with this. We'll program few more examples, not few but many more examples, and few tricky ones too, few questions that are very much important in interviews and semester exams also, and we will understand the very core concept of while loop, and we will make very much new mini projects from these while loops. For now let's just wrap this video. Thank you for watching. Peace.